For a moment, forget everything you've been told about aging. Forget the quiet expectations, the slowing down, the idea that life somehow becomes smaller with time. What if the truth is the exact opposite? What if the years ahead of you hold more clarity, more confidence, and more purpose than anything you've lived so far? And what if the only thing standing between where you are and the strongest version of yourself is a simple shift in how you see it all? I want to talk to you like I would talk to a close friend. No sugarcoating, no complicated theories, just something real, something you can feel. Because if you're here, listening to this, it means something inside you is still awake, still curious, still ready. And that matters more than anything. There's this idea floating around that strength fades with age, that time slowly takes things away from you, your energy, your relevance, your ability to grow. But I don't see it that way. I see something very different. I see a person who has survived decades of change. Someone who has faced loss, learned lessons, built relationships, made mistakes, and kept going anyway. That's not weakness. That's not decline. That's strength, real strength. The kind that can't be faked or rushed. But here's the catch. Strength in your later years doesn't just come from what you've been through. It comes from how you choose to think about what you've been through. That's where the mindset shift begins. You see, most people unknowingly carry an invisible script about aging. It sounds like this: I'm too old to start something new. It's too late for me. That's for younger people. These thoughts don't just sit quietly in the background. They shape your decisions. They decide whether you try or step back, whether you speak up or stay silent, whether you grow or slowly shrink. And the truth is, those thoughts are not facts. They're habits. They're patterns that have been repeated so many times that they feel true. But anything that is learned can be unlearned. Think about it. At every stage of your life, you've had to adapt. You weren't born knowing how to handle responsibility, relationships, or challenges. You learned. You adjusted. You evolved. So why should that stop now? In fact, this stage of life gives you something incredibly powerful perspective. When you're younger, you're often driven by urgency, by comparison, by the pressure to prove something. But now, you have the ability to see what truly matters. You know what's worth your time and what isn't. You know which battles are worth fighting and which ones to let go. That's not a limitation. That's an advantage. Let me ask you something honestly. When was the last time you allowed yourself to feel excited about the future? Not just comfortable or content, but genuinely excited? For many people, that feeling fades not because life has nothing left to offer, but because they've quietly stopped expecting more. And expectation is powerful. The moment you believe your best days are behind you, you start living as if that's true. You stop reaching. You stop exploring. You start settling. But if you flip that belief, if you decide that your best years could still be ahead, your behavior begins to change. You become more open, more curious, more alive. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing to see possibility alongside reality. It means understanding that while some things may have changed, your ability to grow, to connect, to create meaning that is still fully intact. There's another shift that's just as important, and it's this: moving from focusing on what you've lost to focusing on what you still have. Because, yes, life changes. There may be things you can't do the way you once did. There may be people who are no longer in your life. There may be moments you wish you could go back to. But if your attention stays fixed on what's gone, you miss what's still here. And what's still here is powerful. You still have your voice. You still have your mind. You still have your experiences, decades of them. You still have the ability to influence, to inspire, to connect deeply with others in a way that only someone who has truly lived can. There are people in this world right now who need exactly what you have to offer. not a younger version of you, not a different version of you, you as you are today. But to step into that, you have to let go of one more belief, the idea that growth has an expiration date. Growth is not tied to age. It's tied to willingness. As long as you're willing to learn, to try, to adjust, you are growing. It might look different than it did before. It might be slower, more intentional, but in many ways, it can be deeper and more meaningful. You don't need to chase everything anymore. You get to choose what matters most, and that brings a kind of strength that younger people often don't have yet. The strength to say no without guilt. The strength to focus on what truly fulfills you. The strength to define success on your own terms. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds good, but it's not always easy. And you're right, it's not. Changing how you think, especially after years of seeing things a certain way, takes effort. It takes awareness. It takes patience. But here's the encouraging part. You don't have to change everything at once. It starts small. It starts with noticing your thoughts, catching yourself when you say, I can't, or it's too late. Pausing, even for a second, and asking, is that really true? It starts with trying one new thing, no matter how simple, having one new conversation, taking one small step outside your comfort zone, because every small step sends a message to your mind. I'm still capable. I'm still growing. And over time, those small steps begin to add up. They begin to reshape how you see yourself. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is winding down, and you start seeing yourself as someone who is evolving. And that shift changes everything. There's also something else that becomes incredibly important at this stage of life, how you talk to yourself. After years of living, it's easy to become your own harshest critic, to look back and focus on regrets, to replay mistakes, to think about what you could have done differently. But carrying that weight doesn't make you stronger. It keeps you stuck. Real strength comes from a different place. It comes from acceptance, from understanding that you did the best you could with what you knew at the time, and that every experience, even the difficult ones, shaped the person you are today. And that person right now is still capable of creating something meaningful. Imagine what would happen if, instead of judging yourself, you started supporting yourself. If you spoke to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend. If you allowed yourself to move forward without constantly looking back. That doesn't erase the past. It frees you from it. And when you're free, you have energy again. Energy to focus on what's in front of you. Energy to build something new, even if it's small. Even if it's just a new routine, a new habit, a new way of seeing your day. Because your life is not just a collection of years behind you. It's also the days ahead of you. And those days still matter. They matter more than you think. There is a quiet power in waking up each day and choosing to engage with life, to be present, to notice the small things, to appreciate what's here, while still being open to what's possible. That combination, gratitude and possibility, that's where real strength lives. And that's what aging with strength truly means. It's not about holding on to the past or trying to be who you used to be. It's about stepping fully into who you are now, with all the wisdom, resilience, and depth that comes with it, and trusting that this version of you still has more to give and more to experience. Because you do. There's something that doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to growing older, and that's this quiet transition that happens inside you. It's not something you see in the mirror. It's not something others always notice, but you feel it. A shift in how you relate to the world, to people, and most importantly, to yourself. In earlier years, life often feels like a race. There are goals to hit, responsibilities to carry, expectations to meet. You're moving forward, sometimes so fast that you don't even stop to ask if the direction truly feels right. You just keep going because that's what you're supposed to do. But now, something is different. There's space. Space to reflect. space to question, space to choose. And that space can feel unfamiliar at first, even uncomfortable. Because when the noise of constant doing starts to quiet down, you're left with something deeper, the question of meaning. What actually matters to me now? Not what used to matter, not what others expect, but right now, in this stage of my life, what truly matters. This is where the second mindset shift begins, moving from living by default to living by design. For many people, a large part of life has already been lived on autopilot, following routines, fulfilling roles, checking off responsibilities. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's part of life. But now, you have a rare opportunity to step out of that pattern and become intentional in a way you may never have been before. You get to design your days. Think about that for a moment. Your time, your energy, your attention, these are some of the most valuable things you have. And now, more than ever, you have the freedom to decide where they go. But here's the challenge. Freedom without clarity can feel overwhelming. If you don't know what you're moving toward, it's easy to drift. Days can start blending into each other. Weeks pass without anything feeling meaningful or memorable. That's why intention matters so much. It doesn't have to be something grand or complicated. It can be as simple as deciding, I want to feel more connected, or I want to take better care of my health, or I want to learn something new. The power is not in the size of the goal, it's in the direction it gives you. Because once you have direction, even small actions begin to feel purposeful. A short walk isn't just a walk. It's part of taking care of your body. A phone call isn't just passing time, it's building connection. Reading something new isn't just a habit, it's growth. And suddenly, your days start to feel different. Not because everything has changed, but because you are engaging with them differently. There's also something else that becomes clearer with age, and that's the value of your energy. When you're younger, you tend to give your energy away without thinking much about it, to people, to situations, to worries that don't really deserve it. But over time, you begin to realize that your energy is limited, and where you invest it matters. This realization can be incredibly empowering, because it means you can start making choices that protect your peace. You can choose to step away from unnecessary negativity. You can choose not to carry stress that isn't yours. You can choose to focus on what uplifts you instead of what drains you. That's not selfish, that's wisdom. And the more you practice this, the more you begin to feel a quiet sense of control over your life again. Not control over everything that happens, but control over how you respond, where you focus, and what you allow into your space. Now, let's talk about something that often holds people back during this stage comparison. It doesn't disappear with age. In fact, sometimes it becomes even more subtle, comparing your life to others. Comparing where you are now to where you thought you would be. Comparing your present to your past. And comparison has a way of stealing your sense of fulfillment. Because no matter what you've done, there will always be something or someone that makes you feel like it's not enough. But here's the truth. Your journey was never meant to look like anyone else's. Every experience you've had, every challenge you've faced, every choice you've made, it all created a path that is uniquely yours. And there is value in that path, even if it doesn't match what you once imagined. In fact, some of the most meaningful lives are not the ones that followed a perfect plan, but the ones that adapted, that changed, that kept going even when things didn't go as expected. So instead of asking, did I do everything right? A better question might be, what can I still do with what I have now? Because that question opens doors. It shifts your focus from judgment to possibility. And possibility is where growth lives. Another important shift is learning to redefine what progress looks like. In earlier years, progress is often measured in big milestones, career achievements, financial success, major life events. But now, progress can be quieter, more personal. It can be taking care of your health more consistently. It can be improving your relationships. It can be finding moments of peace where there used to be stress. It can be learning to enjoy your own company. These may not always be visible to others, but they are deeply significant. And when you start recognizing these forms of progress, you begin to feel a sense of accomplishment again. Not because you're chasing something external, but because you're building something internal. There's also something incredibly powerful about giving yourself permission to evolve. A lot of people feel stuck because they believe they have to stay the same. That at a certain age, who you are is fixed. But that's simply not true. You are allowed to change your interests. You are allowed to discover new passions. You are allowed to let go of things that no longer feel right. In fact, that's one of the greatest freedoms you have right now. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You don't have to follow expectations that don't resonate with you anymore. You get to be honest about what you want your life to feel like, and that honesty can lead to surprising changes. Maybe it's picking up something you once enjoyed but left behind. Maybe it's exploring something completely new. Maybe it's simply changing how you spend your time on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be real. Because when your life starts to reflect who you truly are, not who you used to be, not who others expect you to be, you begin to feel more aligned, more at peace, more yourself. And that feeling, that sense of alignment, is a form of strength that goes beyond anything external. It's the kind of strength that doesn't depend on circumstances. It comes from within. But let's be real for a moment. Not every day is going to feel clear or purposeful. There will be days when you feel uncertain, days when motivation is low, days when you question things. That's part of being human. At any age, the difference now is how you respond to those moments. Instead of seeing them as signs that something is wrong, you can start seeing them as part of the process. Moments to pause, to reflect, to reset. You don't have to have everything figured out all the time. You just have to keep moving, even if the steps are small, because consistency matters more than intensity. It's not about making one big change and expecting everything to transform overnight. It's about showing up for yourself, day after day, in simple ways. And over time, those simple actions create something powerful. They create momentum. They create confidence. They create a sense of direction that feels steady and real. So if there's one thing to take from this, it's this: your life is still yours to shape. Not in the same way it was before. Not with the same pressures or expectations, but with a different kind of power. The power of choice, the power of perspective, the power of intention. And when you begin to use that power, even in small ways, you start to realize something important. You're not just living out your years, you're still creating them. There's another truth about this stage of life that many people feel, but don't always put into words. It's the awareness of time, not in a fearful way, but in a deeper, more honest way. You begin to understand that time is not endless, that it's valuable, that it's something you don't want to waste. And that realization can go in two very different directions. For some, it creates hesitation, a feeling of, what's the point now? Or, is it worth starting something at this stage? It can make a person hold back, play safe, stay within what feels familiar. But for others, it creates clarity, a quiet urgency that says, if not now, then when? A realization that there's no need to wait for the perfect moment because the moment is already here. This is where the third mindset shift begins, moving from hesitation to engagement. Because the truth is, life doesn't respond to how much time you have left. It responds to how you choose to use the time you have. And engagement doesn't mean doing something extreme or exhausting. It means being involved, being present, being willing to participate in your own life instead of watching it pass by. You see, it's easy to slowly withdraw without even realizing it. To stick to the same routines, the same conversations, the same patterns. And while comfort has its place, too much of it can quietly shrink your world. The antidote to that is not pressure, it's curiosity. Curiosity is one of the most powerful qualities you can hold on to at any age. It keeps your mind active. It keeps your perspective fresh. It opens doors that routine alone cannot. And the beautiful thing is, curiosity doesn't require anything complicated. It can start with simple questions. What else is out there for me to experience? What haven't I tried yet? What could I learn even now? These questions don't demand immediate answers. They simply create openness, and openness leads to action. Maybe that action is trying a new activity. Maybe it's joining a group or community. Maybe it's having a conversation with someone you normally wouldn't talk to. Maybe it's exploring a subject you've always been interested in, but never had time for. The size of the step doesn't matter. What matters is that you take it. Because every time you step into something new, even in a small way, you send a powerful message to yourself. I am still engaged with life. And that message changes how you feel. There's also something important to understand about engagement. It's not just external. It's internal too. It's about staying mentally and emotionally connected to your life. It's about allowing yourself to feel things fully instead of shutting down or going numb. It's about staying interested in your own growth, your own thoughts, your own experiences. Because when you disengage internally, even the most active life can feel empty. But when you're engaged internally, even simple moments can feel meaningful. Think about the difference between going through your day automatically and truly noticing it. Noticing the way the morning feels, the sound of a familiar voice, the comfort of a routine you've built, the small details that often go unnoticed. These moments may seem ordinary, but they are the fabric of your life. And when you engage with them fully, they start to feel richer. Now, let's talk about something that often becomes more significant with age: connection. Human connection is not just a nice addition to life. It's essential. It's one of the things that gives life depth and meaning. But connection doesn't always happen automatically. It requires intention, and sometimes it requires courage. Because opening up to others, especially after experiencing loss or change, can feel difficult. It can feel easier to stay guarded, to keep interactions surface level. But real connection happens when you allow yourself to be seen, when you share your thoughts, your stories, your experiences. And here's something to remember. Your experiences have value. The things you've lived through, the lessons you've learned, the perspectives you've gained, these are things that others can benefit from. You have insights that younger generations simply haven't had time to develop yet. And when you share those insights, you're not just connecting, you're contributing. You're adding something meaningful to someone else's life. But connection is not only about giving, it's also about receiving, allowing others to support you, to listen to you, to be part of your life. Because strength is not about doing everything alone. It's about knowing when to open up, when to lean in, when to let others in. And when you create those connections, whether it's with family, friends, or even new people, you begin to feel something that is incredibly important at this stage of life. You begin to feel that you are still part of something, that you still belong, that you still matter. And you do. Now, there's another layer to engagement that often gets overlooked, and that's purpose. Purpose doesn't have to be something grand or world-changing. It doesn't have to be tied to a career or a title. It can be simple, personal, and deeply meaningful. It can be being there for someone. It can be sharing your knowledge. It can be creating something, no matter how small. It can be taking care of your health so you can show up fully in your own life. Purpose is not about what looks impressive. It's about what feels meaningful to you. And when you have even a small sense of purpose, it changes how you approach your days. You wake up with a reason to engage. You move through your day with a sense of direction. You feel connected to something beyond just passing time. But purpose is not something you always find all at once. Sometimes it reveals itself through action, through trying things, through showing up, through paying attention to what feels right and what doesn't. So instead of waiting to feel a strong sense of purpose before you act, try flipping it. Take action first. Stay engaged and let purpose grow from there. Because it often does. There's also something powerful about giving at this stage of life. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. Giving your time, your attention, your kindness, your presence. These things may seem simple, but they have a profound impact not just on others, but on you. They create a sense of fulfillment that is hard to replicate through anything else. Because when you give, you're reminded that you still have something valuable to offer, that you can still make a difference, even in small ways. And that feeling reinforces your sense of purpose. But let's not ignore something real. There will be moments when you don't feel like engaging, moments when it feels easier to withdraw, to stay in your comfort zone, to avoid effort. And in those moments, it's important not to judge yourself. Instead, gently remind yourself of what engagement brings into your life. Energy, connection, meaning. You don't have to force yourself into big actions. Just take a small step. Reach out to someone. Step outside for a few minutes. Do something that shifts your state, even slightly. Because once you begin, it becomes easier to continue. And over time, engagement becomes a habit. Not something you have to push yourself into, but something that feels natural. Something that becomes part of who you are. A person who shows up. A person who participates. A person who stays connected to life. And that, in itself, is a powerful form of strength, because it means that no matter your age, no matter your circumstances, you are still choosing to live actively rather than passively. You are still saying yes to life in your own way. And that choice made consistently, day after day, is what keeps your world from shrinking. It's what keeps it expanding, even now. And that expansion is where some of the most meaningful moments of your life can still happen. There's one final shift that brings everything together, and it's perhaps the most powerful of all. It's the shift from simply living through your years to truly owning them. Because at this stage of life, something becomes very clear if you allow yourself to see it. You are no longer becoming who you are. You already are who you are. And there's a quiet strength in that realization. You're not chasing identity anymore. You're not trying to prove your worth. You've lived enough life to know that your value doesn't come from titles, achievements, or what others think of you. It comes from something deeper. From the way you show up. From the way you carry yourself. From the way you treat others and yourself. And when you begin to fully accept that, something inside you settles. There's less pressure, less comparison, less need to rush. In its place, there's a sense of grounding, a sense of confidence that doesn't need to be loud to be real. But owning your years doesn't mean becoming passive. It doesn't mean saying, "This is it, nothing more to do." It means the opposite. It means recognizing that every day you wake up, you still have influence over how your life feels. You may not control everything that happens around you, but you have a powerful say in how you experience it. You get to choose your attitude. You get to choose where your attention goes. You get to choose how you respond to challenges, to change, to uncertainty. And those choices shape your life more than any external circumstance ever could. There's a kind of freedom in that, but also a responsibility. Because once you realize that your experience is shaped from within, you can no longer place all your power outside of yourself. You can't wait for things to change in order to feel better. You begin to understand that the shift has to start with you. And that realization is not limiting, it's empowering. Because it means that even in moments where things are not perfect, you still have access to something steady inside you. Resilience. Not the kind that pushes everything away or pretends nothing is wrong, but the kind that says, "I can handle this. I can move through this." You've done it before, more times than you can count. Think about all the moments in your life that you once thought would break you, but didn't. You adapted. You adjusted. You kept going. That resilience didn't disappear with time. If anything, it became stronger. And now, it's something you can rely on. something you can trust. There's also a quiet beauty in this stage of life that often goes unnoticed, the ability to appreciate things more deeply. When you're younger, it's easy to overlook the present moment, to always be thinking about what's next, what's missing, what needs to be achieved. But now, you have the capacity to slow down and truly see what's in front of you, the conversations that matter, the moments of peace, the simple routines that bring comfort. These are not small things. They are the essence of a meaningful life. And when you begin to fully appreciate them, your life starts to feel fuller, not because you have more, but because you're experiencing more of what you already have. That's a form of richness that can't be measured. At the same time, appreciating the present doesn't mean closing yourself off from the future. There is still room for anticipation, for excitement, for new experiences. Your life is not behind you. It's around you. It's still unfolding, day by day. And the way you choose to engage with it determines how it feels. So instead of asking, "How much time do I have left?" try asking a different question. How do I want to live the time I have? That question shifts everything, because it brings your focus back to what you can control. It invites you to be intentional, to decide what kind of days you want to create. Not perfect days, not extraordinary days, every single time, but days that feel honest. Days that feel aligned with who you are now. Days where you show up in whatever way you can. And that's enough, more than enough. There's also something important about letting go as you move forward. Letting go of old expectations that no longer serve you. Letting go of the need to have everything figured out. Letting go of the idea that your life has to look a certain way to be meaningful. Because meaning is not found in perfection. It's found in presence, in showing up as you are, in allowing your life to be what it is, while still gently shaping it in the direction you want. And when you live that way, something shifts. You stop resisting where you are. You start working with it. And life begins to feel less like something happening to you and more like something you're participating in. That sense of participation, that sense of ownership, is what aging with strength truly looks like. It's not about holding on to youth. It's not about denying change. It's about embracing where you are, while staying open to what's still possible. It's about standing in your life, fully, without shrinking, without stepping back. It's about recognizing that you still have a role to play. Not the same role as before, but a meaningful one. A role that only you can fill. And maybe that's the most important thing to remember. You are not done. Your story is not finished. There are still moments waiting for you. Still conversations you haven't had. Still experiences you haven't felt. Still growth that can happen in ways you may not even expect yet. But it starts with a decision. A simple, quiet decision to stay engaged, to stay open, to stay willing, to wake up each day and say, "This day matters." Because it does. And so do you. So take a breath. Look at where you are, not with regret, not with doubt, but with awareness. You've come a long way, and there is still more ahead. Not in the way you once imagined, perhaps, but in a way that can be just as meaningful, just as rich, just as full. This is not the end of your strength. In many ways, this is where it becomes most real. So stand in it, own it, and live the years in front of you with the same courage that carried you through the years behind you.